We all move to the Philippines for lifestyle, and that may include hiring a housekeeper so we don't have to deal with the day-to-day chores. But what happens when that housekeeper turns into your biggest source of stress? I'm going to share two stories. One about a trip I took to Vietnam and what I walked into when I returned, and the other about Chismas, which was an expensive lesson about privacy and setting professional boundaries. So the mighty Vietnam trip. Well, before I get into that, real quick, I'll give you a quick synopsis of how I found my housekeeper. I asked my landlord. I had been living in the Philippines for about a year, single guy, had a nice apartment, and I would clean it, make the bed, do all that kind of happy stuff. And then I said, you know what, I'm tired of doing this, and I knew labor was pretty inexpensive. So I asked my landlord, hey, do you have a lady that would come over and clean my apartment, for 4 hours or 5 hours or whatever it takes, 3 hours, and I could just pay her a set amount. I didn't need a live-in. I didn't need a maid with benefits or all that hoo-ha. I just wanted someone to come in like I had in Vegas that would come in, clean the place. I'd pay them, they'd bust out, and I would enjoy the benefits of their labor, and they would enjoy the benefits of the paycheck. And so she referred this woman named Mary, I'm going to say, and Mary did a bang-up job. I mean to tell you, she found dirt that I didn't know existed. She found places to sweep and clean that never even crossed my mind. And she would do stuff extra, like sometimes she would clean out the refrigerator and detail that puppy up. I adored her. And I didn't pay her the 300 pesos suggested or that she requested. I gave her 500. And not that I'm some big spender, but it was really kind of a threefold reason. Number one, I didn't want to be a cheap Charlie. It always bothered me that these people work so hard and we pay them so little. Number two, she did a great job. And number three, she was a single mom in her 40s and the mother of 5. She had 5 mouths to feed other than herself. And I would never have been able to sleep at night if I'd have just given that poor woman 300 pesos. 500 pesos sounds cheap to me today. Anywho, we had a great relationship. She would come over, and after a while, I no longer felt like I needed a supervisor. So I would say, all right, Mary, you bust a move, you do your thing, I'm gonna split. And I'll come back and you just text me. After you text me, I'll come back and I'll pay you up and we'll be good to go till next time. So, okay. And so she would come in, we'd say our hellos. She always asked and requested if she could charge her phone. I don't know why that was such a big request. I thought, sure. Turns out she didn't have electricity, so it was a pretty big deal to her to get her phone charged. Anyway, I would bail out. 3, 4, 5 hours later, whatever the task required, she would text me and I would come back and I would give her her 500 bones and off she went until next time, and we would make an appointment for the next time. Then I was invited to join my friend Gary in Vietnam. I said yes, and the day that I was leaving for Vietnam, I woke up to having no water in the apartment. Nothing worse than no water. I would rather have had no electricity, but no water. You can't flush the toilet, you can't take a shower, you got no way to brush your teeth, but you find ways. So I went out to the pool, we had a pool, and I filled up the bucket and I was able to use that to flush the toilet. Drinking water, poured that into a cup, used that to brush my teeth, splash that on my face, run some through my hair, and clean up a little bit, little extra deodorant, and then got dressed, but I still felt yucky when I got on the plane. And no big deal. I landed in Vietnam, I reunited with my friend, we ran around Nha Trang for about 3 weeks, and then it was time to come home. Well, 2 days prior to coming home, I called good old Mary up and I said, yo Mary, I'm gonna be home in a couple of days. Let's just say I'm gonna be home on Friday. And I called her on a Wednesday. I said, can you make sure to go over there on Thursday and clean my apartment for me? I had given her a key. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I trusted her to the point that she could have a key to my apartment. She had never taken anything. I left little baits out, like change and stuff on a plate to see if that was mysteriously missing. Never happened. Never ate any food out of the refrigerator, even though I told her she could, etc., etc. All she wanted to do was charge her phone. So she said, absolutely, Sir Paul. I'll be over there Thursday and I'll clean it up for you. I said, great. Well, the day before, about 12 hours before I was going to get back home, get on the plane in the morning and be there, I called her again because it was really annoying me. I knew this place was going to be a disaster. And I said, Mary, make sure you go over to the place tomorrow and get it squared away. And I'm sorry for calling you at night, but I really want to make sure that it gets cleaned up. And I'll give you a little something, a little extra for it, because I know it's going to be really dirty. No problem, Sir Paul. Great. I go through all the nonsense of travel, and dealing with the Manila airport and all that sort of stuff. So I'm tired, I'm cranky, I'm hungry, but I'm really looking forward to coming home. I just know I'm going to walk into a little burst of sunshine, and it's going to be all shiny and bright. I'm going to be able to take a nice hot shower. I'm going to be able to sleep into my perfectly made bed by Mary, and boom, she hadn't been there. And the place was brutal looking. I mean, you can imagine what the commode must have looked like after 3 weeks with no water running through it or being regularly flushed. The shower, the kitchen sink, there were ants running around because there were some breadcrumbs. It was just a disaster area. And I got home, it was in the afternoon, early morning maybe, 10 o'clock in the morning maybe, something like that. Anyway, I got home and I called old Mary up and I said, Mary, what happened? Where are you? I was pissed. And she said, oh, Sir Paul, I forgot. How can you forget? I talked to you 12 hours ago. Oh, I'm sorry, I just forgot. You want me to come over now? Hindsight being 2020, I would have said yes. But I said, no, you're fired. That's it, I'm done. Boom. And to this day, I feel bad about that. But there's a caveat. Little old Mary also worked for 4 or 5 of my friends, and I had referred her to a couple of them, and that couple referred them to a couple of more. So now, little old Mary, because of yours truly here, she didn't have my place to clean. She had a place to clean damn near every day. So she was making bank, according to her world, and they were just as happy as could be with her until they weren't. And what was Mary's downfall? Thank God it never happened to me, because she wasn't a lot to talk about. But she was starting up the Chismus telegraph, the jungle drums, the gossip. And I got news for you. Gossip out here travels faster than if you took a piece of lightning, greased it, and hung it on a rattlesnake's tongue. Now, that's how fast information flows over here on what I call the coconut grapevine, the chismis, the gossip. There's no internet speed that can match it. It's damn near the speed of light. Anyway, what she was doing was going over to my friends' places, all these people I knew, and they all had girlfriends, I think, or they didn't, and they were, being butterflies. Well, she couldn't wait once she went to one guy's house. If she went over to the second place's house, and that guy's girlfriend was home, she would tell customer number 2 what customer number 1 had been up to, and who he was with, or what she was doing, or what his girlfriend said, and number 3, and number 4, and number 5, all up and down the row of customers. She was the Rona Barrett of the Philippines. Gossip, 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 and she couldn't wait to get over to somebody else's house and tattletale on the guy or the girl or both. And you know what? It created so much commotion, because once one girl heard about it, she'd call 5 others, and you can see where this is going. It started this whole sequence of events where everybody was now backbiting. It caused the breakup of one couple because she ratted out the chick or the guy. I can't remember, it was so long ago. But that was the cost of doing business. And the problem was, I and the others were all guilty of one thing when hiring somebody to work for us. Number one, we're paying them good money, according to the standards at the time. And number two, they needed to respect our privacy and show some boundaries. Why didn't that happen? It's because none of us had the foresight or the thought to sit down and say, listen, what happens in my house stays in my house. And if I find out that you're telling people about how much money I have or don't have, or who I'm dating or who I'm not dating, and what you saw me do, that's going to be the end of our relationship. Do we have an understanding? And that should have cleared up the problem. Unfortunately, none of us did that, and that was the result. So just a little word of warning. When you're hiring somebody, you need to set up boundaries, and you also need to set up a communication to where they understand what you told them. A Filipina, to save face, if they don't understand me, my wife does it. They'll just say yes, okay, yes. And then what I have found the best thing to do is say, okay, what did I just tell you? Please repeat it back so I know that we both are on the same page. And if they can't do it, now I know I need to dumb it down. I need to simplify things, because English is not their first language. I'm not calling them dumb. I'm calling me dumb because I didn't understand the proper way to communicate to somebody that doesn't speak my language. Slow it down, make yourself clear, and if possible, demonstrate. In other words, if I wanted to show Mary how I wanted my bed made, I could have shown her, you got to tuck. I'm not like that, but you know, I'm saying. Same thing with the gossip. Listen, we're friends, but we work for one another. But we're not friends that you can go out and start talking about me. We are friendly, but listen, we have an employee-employer relationship. You work for somebody, I imagine, at some point in time in your life. Were you best buddies with the boss? No. I'm sure you were cordial with them. I'm sure you said, good morning, boss. And they said, good morning, Bob or Frank or whatever your name is. And that was that. But if time came to where he needed to clang your balls together because you did something wrong, well, he was setting the parameters. He was setting the boundaries. And he was making sure that you followed policy. Same thing needs to apply out here in the Philippines, but you have to do it sometimes triple, more than just one time, to make sure that everything is established and to make sure that everybody is on the same page. All right, kids, I'll hopefully see you in the next video.